Welcome to the Clyde FC podcast live from New Douglas Park, match day live. We are now just 2.5 hours away from kick-off as the Bully look to put an end to a quite horrifying run of form at present and to look back on where it's went wrong and what we need to do to put this right. I have Mr. Graham Murray, who has already put his Wi-Fi curse on us, so hopefully the tech issues are now resolved. Graham, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Hopefully, as you said, the tech issues have been resolved, and my secret plan to get everything and Wi-Fi related not working is something that we won't have to worry about for the next wee while.
Yeah, and hopefully all we need to worry about today is getting things right on the park. Graham, I was looking in advance of today, and it was in pre-match article on the website, and it mentioned this was our first home league match now in 5 weeks. And it did get me thinking, well, obviously in that time we have lost 4 of those league games. There seems to be a recurrence from previous seasons where home form has generally been okay to acceptable. The away form has really, really crippled us at times. Now, to put that into perspective, this season, we have only lost 1 in the League 2 in all competitions at home. We've only won 1 game away from home and lost the rest. Is it that simple? Do we just need to sort the away form and the home form will see as good? Or is there a wee bit more at play here?
I think there's got to be more than that. I think I'm really pleased to see that Danny in the pre-match on the website article said that wants to try and keep things simple. And I think in terms of the players, the selection, everything that needs to be more simple. I think we need to win our battles all over the park, and it shouldn't really matter whether it's New Douglas Park or away from home, because there's a decent bunch of players there. And we've seen that at various times over this course of the season that we can go up against anybody. But the team selection, is not for questioning, but the consistency of team selection is something that I think we need to look at. And I think that's where Danny's comments, pleased me in the fact that he's looking to get back to basics.
Yeah, and I think we said that even on the last show, which was some weeks ago. I think it was the Alloa game, 4-2 game here at New Douglas Park, and Stuart Payton's got involved just to welcome us back. It is good to be back, Stuart. Apologies to those that do like watching the show and our audio-only listeners. Life got in the way, unfortunately. But yeah, we're back and we will be back weekly. Just touching upon the team selection then, do you imagine we'll change it too much from Falkirk last week?
I hope so. I had no issues when we got to the game last week, and the fact that it retained the same start 11. Mm-hmm. That's something that hasn't been that prevalent in the past, and we were looking to sometimes fit round pegs into square holes, as they say. But I didn't have any issue with the fact that it was the same starting lineup, because they earned the right to start the game, in my opinion. But it obviously went very wrong very quickly. So in that regard, do expect us to make some changes today? Yes. My hope would be that we put 2 up front. A lot of emphasis and a lot of criticism, shall we say, has came in regards to how we're defending things, and it can't be defended. However, I do feel from a personal point of view, from a fan point of view, that we're not defending from the front by having 1 up front.
Absolutely. No, I would agree. I think I'll use one of my analogies that I like to throw out there. At the moment, defensively, we're kind of showing the resistance of a Poppadom trying to catch a bowling ball at times. We are conceding far too meekly. Don't even need to mention the Airdrie game. I think you even just look last week, the 2 goals we conceded. And it was especially frustrating. We didn't start well. No. And to concede from a corner in the way that we did was bad enough. And I think we came into the game thereafter. Ross Cunningham had a really good shot, very well saved by Hogarth in the Falkirk goal. But then to allow a player of Steve McGinn's ability, the time and space that we did, and again, it all came from just not clearing our lines in the first instance.
Yeah, and I think that as well. Yeah, there was periods of the game last week, even the Airdrie game, for an hour, that was anybody's game.
Open game, yeah.
But we can lose goals, we'll score goals, but the manner of how we are losing these goals, Falkirk didn't have to do an awful lot to win the game last week, and the first goal, for example, there's maybe 3 or 4 individual, battles that have been lost in there. The corner coming in, the boy flicks it on it, I think, at near post, and Steve McGinn's 6-8 yards out with nobody even attempting a block or anything like that. And I know there was some criticism of the goalkeeper with it, but let's be fair, it's by him before it's even there. But again, it's just these individual battles that we have to be looking at and taking responsibility. There's a lot of experienced players in that team. There's some youngsters, but there's also some young players on that park playing for Clyde that have got a lot of experience. So we need to start looking, when the manager picks a team and the formation, that they go out there and individually do their jobs.
Yeah. So obviously in that kind of time frame, we did have the Challenge Cup, which gave us a welcome break, shall we say, from the league duties. It wasn't a great game, right? We're not going to try and polish it up in anything other than that. It wasn't a great game, but it was a better performance. We didn't really know a lot about Carnarvon. I thought they were fairly tidy with the ball, but at the same time, I felt defensively we were sound. It was very much night and day from the prior games.
Yes.
So it was a good building block to take forward. Do you think we did enough to take that forward into Falkirk, or was it maybe just a step too far? Because Falkirk are a very capable team.
Out of the two teams, I would say that Falkirk were the lesser of the two teams. With all due respect, I thought Carnarvon were the better of the teams that I'd seen, and they're coming from a pretty decent standards. But you're right, we were very solid defensively, and we were able to build upon that moving forward. I actually enjoyed watching the game because I felt that they were of a better quality than what we're used to seeing. I would maybe liken them to, I know both are struggling, but of that kind of level. They had some very good individual players. I just thought it was a good open game with a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
But the success of that game was built upon a back four, but a well drilled and solid back four performance, and that's where I was feeling confident going into the Falkirk game, where we'd lost the 5 goals to Airdrie previously, and defensively it was shambolic at times.
Yeah, it fell apart.
But I was confident it was a clean sheet, good start for our new goalkeeper, and it looked as if now we've got an established back four there that we can build on, and that's why I was, as I said, in total agreement that we start that 11, but it just fell apart very quickly.
Yeah, and that has been a bit of a recurrent theme. We don't seem to just concede 1. We do then quite often quickly concede 2, and that is something that every fan and everyone in the backroom staff and everyone on the pitch will want to put right.
Yeah.
But that's only words. It's going to be the actions of the guys today in particular, because we're up against Rory McAllister, who doesn't need given opportunities. He's capable of finding them himself.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, he's surrounded by very capable players that can hurt us.
Montrose have always been a really good team to watch in terms of how they attempt to play the game. I think they've got a fantastic manager. I'm very surprised that he's still at this level. They've got a great setup up at Links Park as well, and we're always made to feel welcome when we do go there. We seem to do better at Links Park than we do, whether it be last season or the seasons before that at a previous ground, or hopefully we can reverse the trend of not performing too well when we play against Montrose at home.
We do have a fairly decent record against Montrose, though, because I think that was only their second victory in the last 8 fixtures against us. Albeit, I know what you're saying.
I think
performances haven't necessarily.
Yeah, we go back a year ago and it was that game. So I think that's maybe just still ingrained in my memory. So, but we've always, our record's always been quite decent against Montrose in the fact that they do allow us to play because they play in a certain manner. They've got some. You mentioned McAllister. Terry Marston's been a player I would love to have seen at Clyde for several seasons. He's just a great player at this level. But yeah, they've got a good setup. They've got McAllister who can cause you problems. They had certainly players in the past that have caused us problems, but we seem to do better against the better teams. So what I'm looking for today is it's got to be better. The performance has got to be better from the very start. But if we can defend from the front by playing more up front, i.e. maybe Jordan Allen, Grupp and Partner and Ross up front, or even we could bring all into that equation as well. But I think we've got to look at possibly looking at a 4-4-2, or at least having two up front so that we can play our game. I don't want us to be trying to counter how Montrose play. I want us to be able to play our game.
Yeah, and I brought up a comment here from John Finney. Apologies if I've got your name wrong, John. He's saying that you think our players' heads go down too quickly when we lose a goal. Would you agree with John?
It's possible. I mean, I think one of the things that disappointed me the most in the Airdrie game was, as I said, for an hour, it was anybody's game. We lost a free goal in the first half that we all thought was offside, but it actually turned out to be a really good through pass from Mo. But from there, the second goal was an appalling goal to lose from many. But we were the team. Airdrie looked content to sit in 1-0, and they were worried. And they're a good team as well. We had good possession of the ball. We were creating chances. We didn't do it. Then we lose a goal out of nothing. And I thought the capitulation of the team after that was dreadful.
It was, yeah.
So to a point, yeah, certainly in that game, I would agree that the heads go down. But to be fair, they chucked it that day. And that's where the goals came so easily for Airdrie after that. We did last week, as you mentioned, after we lost the first goal, we actually started to come into the game. Yep. And if it wasn't for goal save from Cunningham, we
could be a different game.
We could have equalised very quickly.
Yeah.
And but the second goal killed us last week as well. And I think, again, they were quite content to sit on that. They didn't create much. But there was times in that game last week where I thought we could get at them.
Yeah.
Especially, I thought, when Jordan Allen came on last week, he worried the defence, and it just kind of proved my point as a fan, with an opinion, that if we play two up front, we're a much more potent threat going forward, and it protects the defence in return.
Yep, no, absolutely. I think a big believer of you attack and defend from the front. Apologies, I think there's aircon just coming on.
I think somebody's boiling the kettle, so
apologies if you can hear that. So yeah, Stuart's just saying Sulet and Fico as a pairing. Would that be something that you would be inclined to do? I know Danny's quite a big fan of Brian McLean. He's a leader.
Yeah.
What would, just for your own personal opinion, what would you like to see at the back?
I think, there's got to be some form of accountability if we're not defending well. As I said, we've given, in my opinion, what I think is causing us to defend as much and then as a result as poorly. But if somebody is not performing to the acceptable levels, then I would say, why not? I think Eric Sula has really not done much wrong since he came in.
Yep.
And obviously, Weatherboy, we've not really seen too much of him, but why not? There's certainly an argument that can be made that, with the exception possibly of Ray Grant last week, that you could be looking at changing the entire starting lineup from last week. So I have no issues with that at all. I think they're two good players, but I also think that Brian McLean is a good player, a good leader, and we can't say that the other centre half is not a good player. We just need to get the best out of
the right mix and getting the best.
Yeah.
So looking at the subs last week, you mentioned Jordan Allen changing the game. Personally, I thought Liam Scullion made a big difference as well. Would you like to see a wee bit more, maybe getting the odd start? That energy and drive from midfield can certainly help you get further up the park. Liam, I think it was in the Kelsey Hearts game, was very important in the third goal, I believe. Would you like to see Liam getting a start?
Again, just going back to what you said, then you could make the easy argument. You could
change everyone.
Apart from, in my opinion, again, Ray Grant's performance last week was somebody who was trying to lead by example. But everybody else, you could absolutely make a case. And I think if we're going to be a team that looks to hit on the break or look to counter attack, the pace that Liam's got, also with the ability he's got, could very well be something that we could utilise. And I know that in that position, I'd like to see him there, and that's not any slur on Ross Lyon, but he's very skillful, he's got the ball at his feet. I'd like to see more of an end product, but if we're looking to get yards and up the park quicker, then Scullion would be the man for me.
Okay, so let's go to the final third, where it matters. I was going to say really matters when we've just been talking about shipping goals for fun. But at the other end, you've still got to put the ball on the net, and that has dried up to a certain extent as well, mainly because we've been on the back foot so much. Now, we mentioned looking at go-to up top. I think the obvious go-to, should we call it that, is Jordan Allen and Ross Cunningham. Do you think that is a pair that can work? It certainly looked as though it could earlier in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pair that can work because it did work earlier in the season, and then obviously we know that Jordan sent off. and it's not really been there ever since. So we know that it can work. But again, if you, as a striker, you're looking at you're judged on your goal tallies, but also your work rate off the ball. And personally, for me, I think Jordan puts in a really good shift off of the ball, more than any other forward that we've got. So he worries defenders, he puts them under pressure, and he can force them into mistakes and get us up the park. So from that point of view, we know that Ross will get you goals if he's given the right service, but we've also got to give him some help in that department as well. And I think that Jordan can really help out in that area. And I would like to see the two of them start today. But we know that we've got Ollie in the wings. If for whatever reason any of the two of them are not working.
Yeah, and I think for me, what Jordan as well can do is he creates space just from he's running, he's selfless running and movement. And I think Ross Cunningham will play better, in my opinion. I have no issue with him up top, absolutely not. But he's better facing the opposition's goal, because when he gets running at them, no defence in this league will like it.
No,
he can be very, very, very good, and that's what we need to, in my opinion, try and get more often. I think when Ross has been playing up top, he's been playing with his back at goal. That takes away from me his main threat and his abilities. So for me, that's where it becomes a no-brainer, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I think we want to get Ross back to where he was at the start of the season. So give him some help, get him doing what he does well, give him the opportunity to do so. And then from there, I'd just like to see us have a go. Play our game and not worry about trying to counteract what Montrose is going to do. So if we're going to want to win the game today, we want to go out and we want to play two up front. And as you said, get Ross facing the goal, get Jordan doing the work round about him, because we know that Jordan can score as well.
Yeah. So Dougie got in touch. I believe you're on holiday, Dougie, still?
He's enjoying his birthday in Turkey, I believe.
Yeah, and a belated happy birthday to yourself, Dougie. He's saying, afternoon, lads. Think we need to get back to the attacking mentality of the first few games of the season, much more threatening and effective going forward than our shaky defensive tactics recently. Pretty much echoing what we have been saying here. The attack from the front and the best form of defence is attack.
Yeah, I think so as well. No, but I'm not sure whether in Turkey they're 2 hours ahead or 2 hours behind, but it certainly seems that Dougie's having a pint before he's put that in there. So, cheers.
So, it's easy to say what you're hoping for today. Is it just about the result, or do you want the performance with it? If it was a scrappy, ugly 1-0, referring back to say Carnarvon here, would you take it? I know you would take it.
You obviously would
you
take
want to see a wee bit more today.
I think we've got to. We've not. I thought the performance, was decent a couple of weeks ago here, but it's not been since the Falkirk game. There was patches. I actually felt that we played over the 3 games. I thought we played better in the Airdrie game for the first hour.
Yeah.
However, we've got to have a performance and a result. That's just, the run of form that we're on just now. We're third bottom. We want to be looking up the way, and we're looking at how can we consolidate and maintain being third top or being towards the top. So it's got to be both. And we've had tremendous backing. You wondered why there's such a disparity between the home and away form. I think the players appreciate. They know that the fans are on a journey with us as well while we're here, and the backing that we've had since we moved here has been tremendous. I think the players appreciate that. They feed on that, and that's not to say the backing away is not anything other than excellent.
Yeah.
But when they've got that backing, they've got that little bit more belief. They've got that little bit more bravery on the ball. When they're here and at the front of there's more home fans and away fans, so have that belief, have that bravery at all times. But yeah, in terms of that performance, absolutely, but it's got to be coupled with a result.
It becomes a mentality thing. That's not the question of mentality. I don't mean it in that way, but when you get into that type of pattern, if you want to say, where home form's fine and away form, if you look at wider aspects of Scottish football, you take Celtic's away form in the Champions League, they can't win by a point away from home. There's kind of a mirror image of ourselves in our weak form. can't seem to get over the line, with the exception of the Queen of the South game, where we were fantastic.
Yeah.
But no away performances came even close to that, even in patches. So that can be looked forward to. We do have home comforts today, and as you say, the backing of the home fans will be pivotal to helping us get out of this rut.
Yeah, and I think what's curious to me is the fact that the catalyst for our early season form was the performance against Queen of the South. The bravery, the belief, the backing. We've just got to simplify things, keep it simple as much as possible, do the simple things well, but also be brave enough to try the other things as well, so that we can try and create more. We've got creative players on the park. We've got speed, we've got pace, we've got experience. We do have a defence that can be solid, because we've seen it a couple of weeks ago. So we just need to have that belief that we can do it. And if we need to go back and look at the Queen of South game to say, well, that's how we can play, then that's where Danny and Moody should have been putting into the emphasis in training this week. Well, let's just go back and try that again.
That's your blueprint. Yeah. That's the building blocks for taking this forward. Stuart's just asked here, any word on Connor Duffy getting back to fitness? No updates, unfortunately. I think there was a mention that he still is.
Yeah, he's a big miss.
Massive miss. I think everyone was very excited, especially after the Queen of the South game, where obviously he did pick up injuries. So fingers crossed Connor is back sooner rather than later. He will certainly give us a different dynamic up top.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the fact that the way that we started out the season, the way the formation we were playing, he was key to it, especially with his pace, but also his ability in that final ball that we had. I looked at the last two games, and there was opportunities where a good delivery into the box could have made all the difference. So we are lacking that in Duffy's absence as well. But from a personal point of view, just hope the lad is well enough and back with us sooner rather than later, from his own point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that pretty much takes us up to time today. Unfortunately, as a short one, we both have other duties to attend to. But thanks for joining in, watching us live, and for those who are listening to us via the audio podcast version, thanks very much for your support, and thanks for your patience over the last few weeks. We will be back now on a weekly basis, and hopefully back on Friday night, because we're away next week, aren't we? Kelty.
We're away to Kelty for the first time.
All right, so that should be a good one, but hopefully we're going up to Kelty on the back of performance and 3 points for the Bully Wee. Just quickly before we do finish up, just a thank you to our sponsor, Tony Flynn Mortgages, Scotland's soundest broker. Just a reminder that if you do reach out to Tony for some mortgage advice and you quote Clyde FC podcast, the Clyde Community Foundation will benefit to the tune of £100 donated by Tony. So please do, if you are looking for some mortgage advice, especially in the current climates, it's probably became even more important to make sure you get the best deal possible. Tony is your man for that. So thanks, Graham, for joining me. Enjoy the game. Hopefully we do. Thank you for everyone for getting involved. And until next time, come on the Bully Wee.
On the Clyde.